Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round one prop preview for this week's RBC Heritage. Going to break down what to expect from Harbour golf links and the golf course conditions there for Thursday to get you prepared for all of your round one exposure, whether it's on Prize Picks, Underdog, whatever props that you're entering, DK Pick 6, all of that. Going to cover exactly how I'm attacking the board and the sort of research that you need to go out there and have an efficient round one. So we'll go through some of the course averages, some of the stat stuff around Harbour, a little look at the weather out there for Thursday too, and then afterwards gonna go through the Prize Picks and Underdog side and give you guys a few of those top plays. So let's start it off with a look at the weather, which for Thursday looks pretty calm early on. You can see in the morning hours sub 10 miles an hour of sustained wind the entire time, but in the afternoon does get a little bit more spicy. So this weather report is from Hilton Head Island over there at Harbour Golf Links, and in the afternoon it is notorious for getting a little bit more blustery. You can see the sustained winds get closer to 12 to 14 miles an hour, and your wind gusts do get in that 15 to 20 mile an hour range. So in terms of your scoring averages, I do think that the morning will play a little bit easier than the afternoon when you consider this little weather advantage here, but also the fact that the morning wave is likely to have slightly more receptive conditions. So it's not that atypical from what we're used to seeing, but anytime we're playing props, especially at this kind of golf course, we want to be tracking that weather. Now we could be looking at a site like Data Golf, bet the number for some of these stat averages, but to make it a little bit easier for us, I went over there and posted the spreadsheet on my Patreon page. Now, of course, this is something that I'm giving to my Patreons for every single round out there on tour, but for round one in our analysis on this free YouTube video, it's going to make our lives a lot easier. So what I have on here are the stat averages at this golf course over the last three events. So we have 2023, 2022, and 2021 listed on here. 2023 was a signature event, so similar to this year with all the world's best players playing. And then the years before that, 2022 and 21, were just a regular event on tour. So you didn't have all the world's best players. The field in general was a little bit weaker for those two iterations. So when you're going through the stat averages, you kind of have to keep that in mind, right? Because this signature level field only having 60 to 70 of the world's best is going to lead to better scoring, right? They're just more talented players. So when you're looking at the stat averages for a signature event as opposed to a regular event, you're going to see a little bit of a discrepancy. So last year, the averages were better across the board. Now, 2021 was an exceptional weather year, so a little bit less of a difference, right, between 2023 and 2021. But when we average these out over the last three seasons, you'll see that it's about a half a stroke under par. Your birdie average is just over 3.6 per round. Bogie average about 2.7 per round. Greens 11.1, in fairways just under 9 per round. Now there are going to be a few changes for this year that I think are going to have an impact. So first off, the signature event. Second off, a lot of rain that has come through the area, so it's going to play exceptionally soft. In fact, last week in this area, Hilton Head Island, they got over 3 inches of rain. So a lot of that is going to be lingering out there on Thursday and Friday. So you're going to have more receptive conditions, easier greens to hit, also easier fairways to hit out there if it's softer, which will make conditions easier. You also have shorter rough this year, so it's only at 1.25 inches as opposed to 2.5 inches that we had there for the last 3 years. So that's also going to make it a slightly easier golf course. You have the stronger field with the signature event, and the forecast, especially early on, is calling for calm conditions. So in the morning, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing play like a stroke and a half under par, but by the time the wind kicks up, it's probably only going to play like a half a stroke to a stroke under par. So like I said, slightly different conditions throughout the day, but that should give you a pretty good idea of what to expect. And in fact, down here at the bottom, I have some projections of what we're going to see. You can see I'm expecting about a 1 under par scoring average, birdie or better average close to 3.8 per round, bogey or worse average a little bit lower than what we're used to seeing. So I have that at 2.4 per round. Greens regulation, a little bit higher because of the softer conditions. And same thing with the fairways hit. I've got it at 9.15 per round with the more dart boards that we're going to have out there with those damp conditions. So with all that being said, what am I attacking? And Because I think it's going to play easier, you'd probably expect some overs on birdies, maybe some unders on strokes, but it looks like Prize Picks and Underdog have slightly overcompensated. So, I like to go through, give you guys an idea of what to expect, but I've actually got some unders over here on Prize Picks. So I've got an under on JT, an under on Wyndham Clark, and also an under on Sepp Straka, which I guess makes a little bit more sense when we look at our birdie average, right? Even with the easier conditions, I still only have the average for the field at 3.8. And while guys like JT, Wyndham Clark are for sure better than average players, even those elite tier guys, I've only got it like a 4.2, 4.3 birdie projection. That is extremely evident when you take a look at the odds on FanDuel, right? Of course, one of the bigger sports books in the industry, taking a lot of action out there across a variety of different sites. So if we're going to use them as a number, for any sort of prop, I have a lot of confidence there, right? DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, William Hill, a lot of those bigger sports books get even more volume than what you see on a Prize Picks and Underdog. So on this sort of market, I would say they're even sharper than what we get for a lot of those books. And you can see here with Wyndham Clark, they've got him at 4.5 birdies or better. So it's 0.5 lower than what we have compared to Prize Picks. And he's also minus 150 towards the under. And while they don't have a JT on there, right, they don't have a Sepp Straka to compare to, these two players are even worse form than what you have compared to Wyndham Clark. It would be even more value towards the under. In fact, a Sepp Straka, right, would be about an average birdie maker in this field. And I think, at the field average, that would be between 3.8 to maybe 4 birdies at the very best. So all three of these are players that I'm comfortable taking an under on. And while they're correlated, you're getting a little bit of a bump down in payment because of the correlation rules. 4.25x for a 3-man isn't the worst payout that I've ever seen. So these are 3 players that I'm comfortable taking. They're all correlated to each other if conditions are maybe a little bit tougher. And JT, Wyndham Clark, now they're about middle of the day tee times, right? They're not late tee times by any means, but the last half of the round be played under those slightly more windy conditions. And I think even with the morning stuff, they're going to push here a lot, right? If they're going to make a bunch of birdies, if they're going to have a good round, I could see them getting to 5 birdies, but 6 birdies, while it is within the range of outcomes, would be a ceiling performance, or at the very worst, a near ceiling performance. You're talking about a top 20, maybe top 25 percentile sort of day for these kind of players. And when I know I'm going to push or hit here like 65, maybe 75% of the time, right? That's a prop that I'm going to take, right? And that's what you're getting with that push equity out there at 5. So I like those 2 in particular. Sepp Straka, right, a little bit of a step down in terms of talent level, is another player that I think you can consider for that angle. And then over here on Underdog, again, kind of surprising, right? I'm taking fades with these sort of conditions, but it's going a little bit overboard. And to give you an idea of why I like these, right, I think the bogey average is going to be about 2.4 per round, right? In the past, last year it was 2.6 per round. Year before that was 2.85 per round. Back in 2021, right, 2.75 bogeys per round, right? Even last year, where it wasn't firm and fast by any means, there were still over 2.5 bogeys being made per round. And something to note here is that the strokes lines on DraftKings and FanDuel, which again are the larger markets, right, the ones that long term are probably sharper because of all the action that's coming in, are much higher than what we have on Prize Picks and over there in Underdog. So to give you an idea, right, Matt Fitzpatrick is the 69.5 strokes over here on FanDuel. Same thing, I believe, over there in DraftKings. On these kind of sites, right, somebody like Matty Fitz is a whole stroke lower, right, down there at 68.5. And even if you used their 68.5 projection, right, even if you went with the sites that I think are a little bit too optimistic with Prize Picks and Underdog, that's 2.5 under par that they're projecting Fitz for, right? And his birdie or better line is, I guess he doesn't have one up, but it'd probably be 4.5 or it'd be 5 birdies. That's projecting him for at least 2 bogeys per round, if not closer to 2.5 right there, right? Let alone if we're looking at the sharper books, right? Taking a look at where they have their odds, like sure, he's juiced minus 150 at 69, right? So maybe we put his actual projection at 69 strokes, right? That would be 2 strokes under par. If he's at a 4.5 birdie or better projection, that's 2.5 bogeys per round that he's projected for. Probably a little bit less than that because of doubles, triples, right? Obviously, those have to be included in your bogey or worse averages. But that's what we're looking at here are props that I think are at least 1 too low across the board. I think all these guys should be at least at 2, if not 2.5 bogeys. And if you take all 3 of the same prop category, you get a pretty solid payout, right? You get 4.98x over here for the champions mode, so nearly a 5x payout on 3 guys that last year can't lay. He finished in 3rd place at this event, and he still went over this line in 3 or 4 rounds, right? Just to give you an idea. And if you take a look at the last 24 round sample for these 3 players, they're in the bottom half of the this field. So certainly long term, right? Some of the better players here, right? Borderline elite tier players in all three cases, but have not been playing like that. Now, Collin Morikawa was in contention at the Masters, so he does have that going for him. But these other two guys, right? Cantlay, Zalatoris in particular, don't have that same kind of form to count on. So these are three guys that I'm willing to take the over on, and making 2 bogeys would still be an above average day, right? If I think it's going to be a 2.4 bogey average out there for round 1, right, that would mean that they still made 0.4 bogeys less than the field average, which is pretty on brand, right, for elite tier players that are out of form. So that's why I have them all projected at that number. Also worth noting that there are some other guys on here that are at the 1.5 bogey mark, but they're 0.9x for the over. So if you're willing to take a slightly lower payout, like even guys like Tony Finau, some of these other guys they have at 0.9x, I would consider for the over. But the reason I took these three in particular, at least especially the top 2, are the tee times. Patrick Cantlay going off a little bit later, right, closer to noon. Same thing with Collin Morikawa. He's got a 1:50 p.m. tee time when the winds are really going to start to kick up. So these are players that the entire round is going to be played in those windy conditions, and if anything, right, might be over a 2.5 bogey average per round. So just a few things to keep an eye on. Again, right, I wish we had better boards to work with because I do think it's going to play easier than what we had in 2023. It's just that the websites, right, these prop sites have gone a little bit ahead of it, right? And maybe they overcompensated a bit, and that's essentially what we're leaning into here. So I post all of this data for every single round on my Patreon for all of my prop tier subscribers, and I post all the exposure I'm getting to. So these aren't the only props that I'm taking. In fact, I have another 3 slips already out there for round 1, already posted over there for my Patreons. On top of the stat averages that you saw in this video, I do that for all 4 rounds. You can see that over there, and every single slip that I'm entering. So I'll give you guys all the different props, all the different prop leans that I'm taking, Prize Picks, Underdog, you name it. DK Pick 6, I'll go over that if you guys have questions, and to give you guys my reasoning, right? So I don't just put out plays, say take them, so on and so forth. I give you guys a detailed stat breakdown of why I'm taking all the different spots that I do, right? So you can go through it. You can see exactly my reasoning. If you agree with it, go out there, tail it. If you don't, then it's something that you don't have to play yourself, right? In fact, you could fade all my plays if you wanted to, right? It's all up to your discretion, but you get all of those stat averages, you get all of that reasoning over there on my Patreon page. So check it out, supports the channel, gives you guys all of that access, and best of luck out there for your round 1 props. I'm going to be going with a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so if you want to get a check on the latest weather trends heading into lock, that'll be a perfect place to check up on that. We can go over any prop questions that you have, so if there are any spots that you want to, my take on over there for Underdog or Prize Picks, just let me know down in that live chat, and let's go out there and have ourselves a week. I'm looking forward to it. Should be an absolute blast out here at a signature event. So best of luck, like I was saying before. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the content to come. I'll be doing that live stream tonight, also around 2 through 4 live streams. I'll be touching on DFS and props out there for Prize Picks and Underdogs. Make sure to check those out over the weekend. And of course, make sure you guys are checking out all my content through the rest of the year. So it's all on there for free, right? Rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? I'm always posting some sort of free prop content, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that. Also, go ahead and comment down below what you guys have as your top birdie maker for round 1. So obviously, I think your top birdie maker is probably going to get to like 7, maybe 8 birdies, perhaps even more than that, right out there for our first round leader. If you guys can give me the top birdie maker from round 1, and it'll include ties, right? So if like 3 guys make 9 birdies, and that's the highest number of the day, all 3 of them account for this contest. If you get that, you'll win a free month of my Patreon. So if you've stayed to the end of the video, you've earned that chance to earn that free month. So go out there, give me your top birdie maker down below, and as soon as somebody is taken, and it's the first person to comment that gets it, that person is taken off of the board. So go ahead, claim your player down below, enter for a free month of that Patreon page, and I'll see you guys for that live stream tonight.